She was the founder of Cannabis Action Network, Americans for Safe Access, and the Berkeley Patients Group. Debbie was High Times Freedom Fighter of the Month. So was I. Sister, twice! Oh, I can't say that. And is currently working on preventing cannabis users from being busted with a Sensible Cannabis Use campaign. I love this, sisters. Please show her your love, too. Debbie Goldsberry.
Thank you, Vivian. Seattle. I love you, too. I'm with Cannabis Action Network and the Berkeley Patients Group. We're a medical cannabis dispensary in Berkeley celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year. I firmly believe that that with this issue, it's that cannabis users, we get to pass the laws, we get to implement the laws, we get to regulate the laws ourselves. In Berkeley, what the voters did in 1979, the voters of Berkeley made cannabis legal. They passed an initiative that said the police shall spend no money on cannabis. It was the founding initiative that Seattle passed here so many years later, and the reason that we could gather here so peacefully. But in 1992, when I got to Berkeley, nobody had implemented that law. So if we pass a law that makes cannabis legal, but we don't implement a law, what good does that do us? No good. So when we got to Berkeley, we set about implementing the law. Opened an adult use, personal use club, where adults who agreed to be intelligent cannabis users, who agreed to be good neighbors, and who agreed to be safe and know their rights, could come and get their cannabis, and we implemented that law. Of course, the police, being like they are, they busted us, but we sued them because we were implementing the law, and we won our lawsuit, and we won a cash settlement. It was totally great, I'll tell you that. Well, Prop 215 passed along the way, so we knew we had to go ahead and implement that in Berkeley, so we opened the Berkeley the Berkeley Patients Group, a medical cannabis club. Like I said, we're celebrating 10 years this year of leadership, service, community, compassion, and integrity, so thank you, Berkeley, and everyone for that. But I'll tell you what's happening now is this regulation thing, because not only do they pass the laws get implemented by us, but the regulations come down. The police department has regulations. The health department has regulations. The zoning department has regulations. The city council has regulations. And guess who's got to be in charge of making those regulations? That's us again. Because in Berkeley what they did, we passed medical cannabis by 86.5%, but when the regulations went into place, they were bumped. Because I'll tell you, when the police make regulations and the health department makes a regulation, they're not going to make our regulations, it's us who make our regulations. So we wrote an initiative in Berkeley to make our own regulations to regulate cannabis. And we lost the first time through in 2004 by 191 votes. So we demanded a recount, and we took it to the courts, and we won our recount. And our voter registrar was found guilty of violating the California Constitution, and they put us back on the ballot, and they called it JJ for us, smoke 2 joints, not just one, JJ. And of course we were going to win that thing the second time through, and it created a self-regulatory body to regulate cannabis in our town, so that the medical cannabis dispensary themselves can appoint 2 commissioners to a government body that's in charge of making laws for medical cannabis, that sets up the safety regulations, that issues the permits, and that's helping us now in my hometown get cultivation permits and permits for bakeries for medical cannabis. So all over the place right now, people need to be working on their own regulations, to develop their own implementation processes for their own regulations. We formed a nonprofit group, the Medical Cannabis Safety Council, to help set standards, teach standards, and regulate ourselves. Electricity is self-regulated by a nonprofit group. Emergency rooms are self-regulated. Lawyers are self-regulated. Medical cannabis is a self-regulated industry too. We make the laws, we implement the laws, we regulate the laws. Join with the Medical Cannabis Safety Commission. Come by our booth at Cannabis Action Network over there by the food. And I'm going to turn it over to Liana Held from our MCSC group for my last 30 seconds here. Love you, Seattle. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie, and thank you, Seattle Hempfest. My name's Liana Held, and I came here from Oakland, California, and the law offices of Jerome G. Hanley, where I spend my days helping medical cannabis patients with actual and anticipated interactions with the IRS. The story I wanted to come here and tell you about is sales tax and what happened in the state of California in 2007. The State Board of Equalization, which is the government agency that collects sales tax, issued a ruling that medical cannabis was taxable. And in 2007, the dispensaries in California started collecting sales tax on all cannabis sales. Well, that money was held in bank accounts, and the feds came into the state of California and they raided those bank accounts. And after a year of lobbying with the Board of Equalization, the chairman of the Board of Equalization, Betty E., issued a statement saying that medical cannabis patients and providers in the state of California were law-abiding citizens, and the federal government needed to stay out of California. She became the biggest lobbyist in California on a federal level from the State Board of Equalization. Thank you, Betty E., and thank you, Hempfest. I love Seattle. Thank you.
Thank you so much, you guys.